Hey guys, today let's talk about top 5 Space Marine transports for your list. And without further ado, let's dive right in. First one is unusual, it's Stormraven Gunship. We discussed this one for top 5 hidden gems for Space Marines, and here is why I think it's in top 5. It's a transport with 20-inch move, toughness 10 and -1 damage, and that is already quite a substantial stat line. It can carry 12 Astartes models, and it does allow Tacticus and Gravis, so you can have a variety of guys inside. And it can carry a Dreadnought, and all that for 240 points, and you get quite a substantial suite of firepower on this thing. You can take a Dreadnought like Brutalis, for example, and send it 20 inches up the board, plus the disembark, of course, which, considering how I think the rule actually works, you will actually get even more movement from that, because you will have to disembark within 1 inch, I think, from the base, and then your base will be sticking out of that 3-inch circle quite a lot. Imagine that plus a full squad of Astartes behind him, and this kind of payload can be thrown again 20 inches up the board. That is an expensive package, don't get me wrong, and it does have a size problem in that it's very hard to hide this thing behind ruins because of the wingspan, sheer wingspan on this thing. I have one right in front of me, it's a huge model. And because how fly works now, you cannot just hide him behind the ruin and then just simply fly over it without losing any inches. You will lose almost all of your movement if you try to fly around or above the big ruin that can actually hide this thing. So you will have to sort of expose it slightly, and this means that you will have to position it very carefully not to lose it in first turn. Therefore, it is a risky investment for your list. However, if you manage to pull it off, it's going to be a very big headache for your opponent. Next, the Repulsor. It's a quirky alternative to the Land Raider with a slightly different role. It does have quite a good array of guns, probably less than a Land Raider all in all, but still not a bad amount. A Land Raider is a more melee-focused transport with the assault ramp ability that allows you to charge after disembarking, where Repulsor has a similar capacity of 12 infantry models, and it can also allow the Gravis and all that stuff, but offers slightly less protection with 3+ save and still toughness 12. Instead, its rule is more shooting oriented for a shooting unit inside. It allows the unit that is within 3 inches of this transport in your opponent's charge phase. When that unit is declared as a target of a charge, it can hop back into the transport if every model is within 3. Not a bad rule, especially if you have ways to get rid of a long range shooting your opponent has that can open up your transports, and then you essentially make them charge your units, and then you can also overwatch the unit that is trying to charge your unit and then just hop back into the transport. That will create a lot of Sultan for your opponent. To carry a whole squad of Hellblasters or Eradicators or Aggressors, I don't think it's a bad deal for 190 points. Next is a drop pod. It's a way to dip strike a squad of 10 Astartes right into the heart of battle from turn 1. You're essentially paying for that privilege here, and it fits 10 guys without any special keywords like Gravis, Jump Pack, etc., but it's still what is important. It's still good for Tacticus, unlike the Rhino, for example. So you can have some interesting combinations of units inside this thing. Otherwise, I would not include this thing because we don't really have any good firstborn melee units apart from some quirky ones in the non-compliant chapters. Problem is that it's only 10 guys, so you cannot fit a character inside a squad unless you do this weird thing, which I'm still not sure if you can do it or not, so correct me in the comments if you can include a character with a 9-man squad but still pay for a 10-man one, because at least that's how it looks from how the Militarium field manual is worded, but I'm not sure, so please correct me if you know better. And as I can see, you can use this thing in one of two ways. First is a direct first turn attack with good shooting like Hellblasters or Devastators that do maximum damage to an important enemy unit early on before your opponent had time to spread out and set up screens, because not every army has a lot of scout options or options with infiltrations. So trying to hit something important from very early on can be very beneficial because that thing might not be as protected. Second option is putting a good melee unit inside this thing, preferably with charge modifiers, which conveniently just don't exist inside the Space Marine Codex pretty much. And I'm almost 100% sure they don't exist for units that can fit inside this thing in non-compliant chapters either, so that one is a no-go option. We do have quite a lot of charge reroll options, so that can work. It's not as good as +1 or +2, of course, but it's still not bad. How I would approach it is I would include 2 or 3 better units inside this thing, especially if those units can have access to rerolls for the charges, and then I would try to get into combat with at least 1 from turn 1. So have this as sort of a very weird, annoying turn 1 charge opportunity. I had the crazy idea to put like 3 units of 3 Blade Guard in this thing, and maybe it's like a support character or something like that that is not obviously going to be helpful for all of 3, but is helpful in general for this mission, and just send them into the heart of your opponent's army turn 1. And that is not a very expensive combo, because 70 points for a drop pod and 90 points for a squad of 3 Blade Guard. It does cost some points, but it's not a huge cost. And getting rid of those 3 units of 3 Blade Guard can be a very daunting task, so you might want to try that one. Next is our Impulsor. It's a Grav Rhino that realized that 10 Marines just don't physically fit inside the small chassis that it has, so it only can carry 6 guys. Great compact transport. It can have 5+ invulnerable save with a shield dome, and in most cases 99% you want that, because the shooting you would get otherwise is just not inspiring at all. And you do need the invulnerable save because the vehicle only has 3+ save, so you can actually encounter situations where high AP threats will be putting you on your invulnerable save. It has 12 wounds and toughness 9, so not a bad profile for such a cheap 80 points transport. Main use for these is transporting mobile and dangerous melee units like the Sword Brethren with a chaplain, or something like a 6-man Blade Guard squad to the enemy. The Blade Guard obviously need a chaplain with them, so it's a difficult one. You probably only want to run that as Gladius, where you can actually get them to +1 to wound and extra AP, but in that case it can actually work quite well. Or you can use that as a firing deck, using the firing deck rule with the something like Hellblasters to take a toll on your opponent from within the relative safety of the transport. You also get to disembark from this thing after advancing, so if you want to stage those dangerous melee units like the Sword Brethren far away from your deployment zone, you can definitely do that with a 12-inch move, then advance, then the 3-inch disembark. Imagine that compared to the typical 6-inch move for the infantry. And lastly, the king of transports, the Land Raider, and its Redeemer option to be precise. 260 points, quite expensive, so 70 points more expensive than the Repulsor, which carries the same, no, not the same, almost the same 12 compared to 14 amount of models, but you get much more bang for your buck here. The ultimate durability stat line with toughness 12, 16 wounds, and 2+ save, so not an easy thing to crack open without proper anti-tank tools. Redeemer is 12-inch move, so very fast, and has a capacity of 14, as I said, so it allows you to carry the all-important 6-man unit of Gravis plus a character, like the famous Aggressors plus Biologist combo. You also get a great array of Flamers, 2d6 plus 6 shots at strength 6, AP 2, damage 2, and 12-inch range. Plus you also get the Multi-Melter, you also get the double Assault Cannon, Twin Assault Cannon, the Stormbolter, and the Hunter Killer. With help of Armor of Contempt, this vehicle can shrug off some really nasty damage and do a lot of damage in return, even on Overwatch, whilst carrying a payload of very dangerous melee or melee plus shooting units inside as for the Aggressors. A pretty unbeatable combo if you ask me. I really love the Redeemer, and it's still an S tier unit for Space Marines. Which transport do you like the most? Which one do you have in your list, and which one I might have missed? I would love to hear those answers in the comments section if you're interested, and thank you for watching. I'll see you next time.